Mrs. Amina Muhammad, Dr. Pachauri, Mr. Vivek Rai, Annapurna, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very important meeting. The subject of this meeting is how will business lead India's energy, water, and food security. It's a very important moment. It's a very urgent moment in our history, as Mrs. Muhammad has just explained to us. And I'm going to explain why the subject that you have chosen, how business will lead, is going to be providing us the answer to this urgent challenge that we have. The global environment is the commons that everyone on Earth shares. And the pace at which we are consuming the commons is much faster than its ability to renew itself. Many movements around the world are gaining strength to slow down the pace at which we are consuming and destroying the commons. Are these movements getting ahead of the pace of deterioration, or are we continuing to fall further behind? Weight of evidence suggests that we are still falling behind, though some local data points and some isolated pieces of research show that in some sectors, some pockets, our efforts are catching up. But these are too few. As they say, one swallow does not make a summer. We need a swarm of swallows to fly. Let's consider the architecture of the approaches we are taking to accelerate our progress. We are struggling with the top-down approach of getting a global agreement amongst governments. This is too slow because there is too little agreement amongst governments who are accountable, each of them, to their citizens. Their citizens have multiple concerns. Climate change is only one of them. And some of these citizens' concerns are short-term concerns, and some are longer-term concerns. For elected governments, short-term concerns of citizens will always be paramount. Citizens may be concerned with climate change for the survival of their grandchildren. Governments are concerned about the next election for their own survival. This mismatch between the nature of the challenge and the design of the institutions we are relying on for a solution ensures that the process of producing an effective global climate change agreement amongst governments is doomed to splutter along. The alternative approach is bottom-up, by collaboration amongst other actors, civil society organizations, scientists, corporations. The strongest voices to change the course of the global growth juggernaut have come from civil society organizations and scientists. Corporations are not yet strongly on board. They too, like governments, are too often focused on shorter-term goals. However, many movements within the corporate world are beginning to gain strength. These, in collaboration with civil society and the scientific community, can develop solutions that can change our orientation to the global commons. These actors, civil society organizations, large corporations, and the scientific community straddle across national boundaries, like global environmental forces also do. They need not be, these actors, captured by the parochial concerns of elected governments. Thus, there is a latent symmetry between these actors and the nature of the challenge. So it is to these movements we must turn if we want to accelerate the pace at which we will stem the destruction of our commons. These bottom-up movements must become much stronger. They must collaborate amongst themselves too to increase their own impact. Much of our public discourse and op-eds in newspapers and on television are focused on analyzing the progress of intergovernmental discussions on climate change. I suggest that we would do well to focus more of our energy on deliberating and acting to improve collaboration amongst the many corporate and civil society initiatives. Scientists and innovative companies are developing solutions that give hope that we may be able to save our commons, provided we adopt their solutions faster. Mandates by our respective governments is one way to make us adopt these solutions, but we do not like government mandates. Another way we will adopt these solutions faster is if we see the benefits for ourselves. For this, we must propagate much faster and more convincingly what are the new solutions and their benefits. And Madam, I entirely agree. You must point out by projecting scenarios of the consequences of not doing these things. The counterfactual is very important. Hope and fear. And let's motivate ourselves together to answer this big question, which is, how on earth can we all live together? This is the question to which the citizens of the world, including the corporate citizens of the world, must find an answer. There will be resistance to some new solutions from amongst the corporates themselves, from civil society, and the scientists too. We must improve our ability to listen to others' concerns, to reshape solutions to address these concerns, to arrive at solutions that become more widely accepted. Mankind's progress is the story of developments, not just of new technologies, but also new institutional forms and institutional processes, such as democratic governments, limited liability business corporations, and multilateral government institutions. With innovations in technologies and institutions, the human species has been able to do what it could not do before. I suggest that the challenge of managing the global commons that mankind must now address requires innovations in institutions to manage lateral cooperation amongst diverse actors. The capabilities of present forms of cooperation are not good enough. We need to create new forms of associations. We need to improve capabilities to cooperate amongst business organizations and their competing associations, and between businesses and civil society organizations. Effective lateral processes and strong bonds cutting across boundaries of national governments are the answer to the question, how on earth can we all live together? And I charge the business community with standing up to be the leaders in creating these institutional forms whereby they amongst themselves must cooperate more effectively and simultaneously with the people, the civil society around themselves for whom we say in corporations we exist. So I wish this seminar and these discussions the very best. There's a seed of hope here, Dr. Pachauri, who's left, and I'll say to you, Annapurna, that you have repeatedly, every year, reminded us like a bell ringing that we must pay attention to this. But as we heard over lunch, we have to go beyond ringing the bell. Let's find out that we may not need to ring the bell again in another 15 or 20 years. Thank you.